Welcome to the next episode of EPM Chronicles and Confessions. We've got Rich Wilkie here. Rich, could you please introduce yourself and your EPM journey?
Sure. So my name is Rich Wilkie. I am the Vice President of Product Management at Oracle, focusing on the financial close. So my journey, I started at Hyperion back in 2000. So I've been doing this for 23 years now. Pretty much I started in pre-sales at Hyperion, and then I moved over to product management after a few years. So yeah, I've been doing it a long time. To be honest with you, I was a microcontrol administrator back in the day. For anyone who doesn't know microcontrol came before Hyperion Enterprise, which came before HFM. So I've been doing this an awful long time, and I look much younger than I really am.
So yes, I mean, here is a question really where, it's very difficult to explain what we do to others outside the industry that we're in. So have you had any misconceptions what you actually do from friends, family, or even clients?
Yeah, I struggle to explain to my mother what I do, and it actually is really difficult because so what I tell my mother is I do accounting software for really large companies. And then I say things like, well, obviously I'm based in the US, but I say things like General Motors or Ford. I use names like that. I try to, because you're right, otherwise it gets in the weeds of, or the details that maybe people don't need to understand. I leave it at that. I work in software.
Fantastic. So what would you say has been your biggest challenge in your career today, and how did you overcome that?
So I think the biggest challenge was probably when Oracle bought Hyperion. And the reason it was a challenge was because if anyone's been sort of in a getting acquired phase, there's just the fear of the unknown. You don't know what's happening. You hear all these stories. You're really trying to make sure. I'm very protective of the people who work for me. The people who work for me have worked for me for a long time. We're like a family. We literally have worked together like 20 years. And as much as they work for me, like we're all just, we all just like each other a lot. And I don't want, if they're anxious, I get anxious. So there was a lot of anxiety at that period, and I think unnecessarily so, because I think we came through really, like the Hyperion culture kept its way all the way through. I think our team really sort of thrived at Oracle, but I would say that anxiety was probably the hardest thing, simply because I manage a bunch of people, and it wasn't just me, but it's all of them too.
Fantastic. Could you share a success story with the audience?
So I think the biggest success right now that I'm sort of personally glowing in is how Financial Consolidation and Close, or FCC, is doing.
Sure.
FCC came out in 2016, and we were not HFM. And that was our comparison, and it was a struggle at first, and certainly I think we had some hiccups along the way, but boy, the team worked really hard, and the development guys just kicked butt on working on performance and working on capabilities. And we just had Cloud World 3 weeks ago in Las Vegas, and it was just such like a positive venue of people talking and successes, and no one's coming up to me and complaining, but we've got like these really big customers who like moved from HFM. I had a customer who had a 2.5-hour HFM consolidation that they cut in half by moving to the cloud. Equity pickups, ownerships all over the place, like all that stuff. So like those kind of things just really make me happy, because I lived through the pain. So it's like where we're at right now just really feels good.
Fantastic. So what's the most rewarding part of your career? What you do at the moment? What's the most rewarding part for you?
for the most part, I do a lot of customer speaking and customer meetings, and I think the most rewarding part is when, like at a Cloud World, when you meet with these customers who are using your software, who are live, who are successful, who want to talk on a stage with you, because people forget that we're people, and we put a lot of effort into our software, and I get yelled at a lot as part of my job, and I'm okay with that. But I really value the successes, and that kind of makes it worth it when I get yelled at, basically.
Okay. So is there any kind of funny moments that you can share with us, with the audience, that you've had in your career to date? Anything that stand out?
You know, I don't know if there's any that stand out. I mean, I think I'm lucky in that I work with a really good group of people, and we've all been together a long time.
Sure.
You know, people know the name like Matt Bradley. Matt Bradley started basically when I started. I've been friends with Matt the entire time. Al Marciante is like my best friend. I mean, like, we're lucky where we work with people we're friends with, and so when we get together for like events like Cloud World, we have fun. And so I think that's just the rewarding part of it, is that the friendships and just hanging out and all that kind of stuff. Like, to me, that's really the great side of this business, is that it can be a lot of fun hanging out with us.
Okay. And this is a related question, really. What was the inspiration for you to join your company at the moment and actually stay? Because, you know, people are moving in this industry in different ways.
So I worked for a private company that was using Hyperion Enterprise, and the Hyperion sales rep came in and took me to lunch, and he said, "You should work here." And I said, "I should work here. Get me an interview." And the rest was history. And I realized that I love working in software. Like, I think it's the most exciting industry. There's always competition, there's always change, there's always something. Like, it's, you know, you kind of learn like this always happens. But if you just focus on making good software, you'll do okay. Why have I stayed? I haven't seen anything that's more appealing, and I like the people I work with. Like, if anyone knows my team is made up of people who have worked with me for 10 years, 15 years, kind of thing. We all are there for each other, and that's pretty special at work.
Fantastic. So we live in a competitive industry. You know, there's other vendors and people.
No, really?
So how do you keep track of this? You know, in terms of what is things you do to keep track of all the competition?
So, I mean, Oracle obviously has a team that supplies some of that information. I actually think the partner community is great. So we're very close with a lot of the partners, and they provide us feedback. Our pre-sales are great because every sales cycle, there's multiple vendors involved, so we get a lot of feedback. So my job is to sort of be close to all those people, partners, salespeople, pre-sales people, and just listen to that feedback loop. Let's face it, YouTube has pretty much everything out there. So you want to see a demo of anyone, YouTube. I mean, so it's not difficult to get that feedback. I think the thing you have to watch out for is marketing is one thing, and the other thing is reality. And so I try not to believe the marketing because and I try to focus on what's real. And I also try to focus on, if we make the best software, we will be successful. So I somewhat tune out the noise and just focus on what you can control, which is making great software. That's really the central focus of what we try to do.
Fantastic. So, as you know, trying to encourage youngsters or new blood into the industry, or novices learning more about it. What's your advice? You've been here long and you're at the top of your game. What is your advice to new people to come into the industry?
So I think the industry is awesome. I tell everyone they should work in software. Personally, I think honestly, I think getting into pre-sales is a really great way to start getting into software, because pre-sales gets you involved, it gets you interacting with customers, you get to see all different facets. I think consulting is another area too. But I do think what's exciting about working in our industry is that there's always change, there's always new vendors, there's always new releases, there's always change. And then on the flip side, the customers are always having new regulations, new requirements, new things. So having that sort of constant change is exciting, and that's what makes it good. So I think that I actually kicked myself that I waited too long to get into software. I should have started in the 90s, but either way, I think it's a great place to work.
Cool. So our industry is evolving at the moment, as we can see evidently already. So what's your views? What will happen in the next 5 years in our industry?
Well, I think what's going to happen in our industry is the same thing as what's happening in the world, which is there's this whole AI thing that's taking over. And so the focus in our industry is, how do you implement AI in a appropriate way for finance? How do you do it in a data and safe way, right? Because you don't want to share data in a public model. So there's a lot of, but I think AI is the big change point. And you can see it, because look at every vendor right now is putting out press releases, many of which mean nothing. They're just gibberish, right? So I think the devil's in the details on who's actually doing something real and who's just putting out a buzzword. But I do think that AI will transform, but it's going to transform the world, so it doesn't really matter. It's that big of a deal.
Oh, fantastic. No, definitely looking forward to do probably future podcasts with you regarding that too. It's been a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and definitely talk to you very soon.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you much.